I must start by complimenting the organizers for being barely 10 minutes behind time. That is extraordinary for an event in its second day, unprecedented perhaps. But let me start by thanking the organizers, GAPP and ORF, for their flexibility on timing and also in allowing me to choose my topic. And I don't know whether this has been advertised or not because it was fluid through the day. But the broad theme that I thought I would spend literally 10 minutes on, because that's all that's been assigned to me, is global dimensions of India's green transition, reflection on India's G20 presidency. And I note that this is an energy transition dialogue, and it's not all aspects of climate change, which is why the whole adaptation dimension perhaps does not figure in the program, which is fine. I also want to acknowledge that Niti Aayog is being indulged because I think you had the CEO of Niti Aayog speaking earlier today on climate finance. You're giving me the opportunity of a keynote, and one of our colleagues, Rajnath Ram, is speaking. So again, thank you to the organizers for acknowledging the role of Niti Aayog. So I just wanted to make 3 points in these 10 minutes, two of which are macro, and one of which is very local and linked to Niti's own mandate. There are people from overseas here who may not know what Niti Aayog is and what it does, but I'm the vice chairman because the prime minister is the chairman, and we have been, amongst other things, charged with thinking about India's journey to 2047, when it is going to be, which will be 100 years after independence. But we are, in a sense, an important cog in the relationship between the union government and the states, and I will talk about that briefly. So my 3 points. The first is that all of this is taking place within a global macroeconomic setting, which has not yet adapted to the nature of the challenge. So both in the report that I believe N.K. Singh discussed with you and in lots of other documentation, I think I was privileged to represent India at the SDG Summit, the Sustainable Development Goals Summit. I think there is a realization and acceptance, which is completely in the New Delhi Leaders' Declaration, that climate change and the energy transition have to be reconciled with other dimensions of development. So it's not either or, it is both. That's fine, and there is a great deal of effort and thinking that has gone into repurposing the multilateral development banks. This may be a little specialized, but I think it's important, which is that a country's current account deficit is also the difference between its savings rate and its investment rate. And I think we all recognize that the green transition, the energy transition, forget about adaptation for the moment, is going to require higher investment rates. And so, yes, we heard in the previous panel that the money is all there, but from a macroeconomic point of view, either you raise your savings or you have to run a larger current account deficit. And the lesson that large parts of Asia, India included, learned from the Asian financial crisis is there's nobody out there, that, as it were, relying on what's called the global financial safety net, the IMF, it can affect your domestic politics, your sovereignty, etc. So the short point I want to make is that we've had a lot of focus on the multilateral development banks, but the global monetary system, which continues to operate on a risk on, risk off kind of basis, is not such as to encourage committed countries like India to risk a higher current account deficit. And I think that's a point that is lost in the global debate. But as we think about India in 2047, I think sustainability on the external side becomes important. So that's my first point. The second point, which came up briefly while I was in the room, is who judges adequate effort. I mean, I think you all would have heard, firstly, that the decision by Prime Minister Modi to sign up to, at the time of the Paris COP, was in the face of the established position of India. We have made a great deal of progress, perhaps more than many advanced countries, in delivering on our NDCs. But the formulation that comes up in initiatives like the carbon border adjustment mechanisms or carbon clubs is, look, we in the North who stepped away from the Kyoto Protocol, we will choose to determine whether you are serious about climate change on the basis of criteria that we define. And if not, we're going to use, yes, WTO compliant, somebody still believes in the WTO, but border measures to penalize you. And I think that that is fundamentally contrary to the spirit of the New Delhi Leaders' Declaration, which is that there is a common goal, but each country should be entitled to define its own path. And what do you know? I mean, the United States doesn't have the politics for carbon pricing, and so they've gone for something which is very distortionary of trade as well, which is huge subsidies. So I think the question of one size not fitting all is central, and I think that this forum ought to exist for accepting, as the logic of the NDCs does, that it is a sovereign choice for countries how to make their contribution, common and differentiated, if you will. And my final point would be about the implications of all of this for the states. Seeing, and this is more domestic, it's not global, but if you step back and see what the commitment to renewables or the energy transition, let me use that term, means in India as compared to the not too distant past, two very, very important differences. First, our fossil thermal fleet was largely in the private sector, whereas remarkably, up till now at least, a large part of the renewables effort is being powered by the private sector, which raises challenges for regulation, for contract enforcement, etc., which are relatively new, and people don't necessarily appreciate the degree to which we have been learning along the way. But second, and I think this was echoed by somebody from the CSE the other day, the Center for Science and Environment, that there is really a shift in the energy geography of the country. Up till now, it has been the east of the country, which has been the energy powerhouse, whereas both because it's so finance and regulation intensive, and because of the solar and land endowment, the new geography is going to be to the west. And so the question of what constitutes transitional assistance in that period, and indeed how the whole global initiative to provide MDB, multilateral finance, private finance, how that actually finds its way down to the states is something that we need, I think, a much more vigorous dialogue on, and I think it is Niti's role to stimulate that dialogue. So those are my 3 points. I'm 1 minute into overtime. Some of you may know that we are playing Sri Lanka and are probably eager to get to the TV monitors. So let me again thank the organizers for their flexibility, and please enjoy the rest of the evening.